Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Jumpstart. I am Jason Meyer, and today we're going to do some color scheming on the first part of the show, and then we're going to do some face planing on the second part of the show. So if that sounds like something that would be of fun to you, stick around and we will have a good time. So we're going to look at Susan and the underwater fish, underwater color schemes. And then we're going to look at Shakti and talk about the planes of the face and how the logic of our four values fits into that. Okay, so I know sometimes I quickly mention that and show it quickly. I'm going to slow down a little bit and we're going to get more into that. So as you guys keep practicing, when you stumble upon things, you know, even if it's lit right or it's not, or the reference is bad, you still have the capacity and the know-how, the tools to get it figured out and get it on paper or canvas and get it looking good. So that's what we're up to today, and Miss Susan's ready to go. Good morning, Susan. Good morning, good morning. I think so too. Get the blood pumping. Get the creativity flowing. It's a good way to start the day. So why don't we, let's see here. Let me get stuff on screen. And if I remember right, you'll have to let me know, Susan. I think you said this was a triad that you sent me. Did you mean the complementary? I don't know. Let me know what scheme this is, because I could have swore you said triad, and maybe you did, but it almost looks complementary to me. So let me know that as we get you up on screen. There we go. There we go. Stick me over in the corner. We're in the corner. Here we go. So we talked about, so these are a couple little side studies because there was a little bit of confusion on precisely the color we were going for. And we talked about two color schemes. Blue. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Yeah. You did say okay. So ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, cad yellow, and white is what this is. All right, that helps out. That helps out. Good morning. Good morning, Shakti. Good morning. Good morning. We're going to look at some planes in the face on your work after we do some color scheming on Susan here. So go ahead and get comfy and settle in. Let's see what we can figure out with color schemes. So ultramarine blue. Ultramarine blue. Let's start here. And ultramarine blue is a blue, but it's on the warmer side. It's got just a touch of red in it. Like, that's probably too much. It's probably right about there. Now again, this is going to be, it's really hard to do on this, and it's a bit darker too, isn't it? Look out of the tube, it might look something like that. So I think what we're going to want to do is, I think our ultramarine blue, and look, that's going to be way too bright, isn't it? I mean, you can see that right off the bat, right? It's like woof, woof. So we're going to have to take that darker ultramarine blue and gray it down. And how are you going to gray it down? Well, you're going to have to gray it down with alizarin and yellow. Okay, so that's going to take so we're probably looking at, all right, can you guys feel the difference? Can you feel the differences between the colors below those and above that? That's really huge. right? One is too cool. That first one is too cool and too bright. and the second one is grayer and warmer. Can you guys read that? Okay, we started last night on Masterworks introducing the idea of feeling the colors. Okay. And so now when I put this down, this just immediately feels better to me. All right, and this is really nice and deep down here. All right, I think we'll let's see what brush I have in my hand. This is all right, but it's definitely not thrilling me. It's definitely not thrilling me. Let's see. All right, am I going too dark down here? I don't know, maybe. But again, we want these things emerging from the deep, right? Do things just show up underwater, or do they emerge? Right, if you're underwater, unless you're in a swimming pool or something. But in the ocean, you can only see so far. And then things don't just suddenly appear out of there, but they emerge. Depending on how fast they're going, they could suddenly appear, I guess. All right, so I think the first thing we're going to want to do, and again, to see these colors correctly and if they're going to work, we need to get them in the range of the value and the range of the chroma that we need. All right, let's see. Miss Cindy's here. Saw Miss Izzy off to picture day at school, and still has time to make sure we're all good. So as we move up here, we're gonna go a little bit lighter, but instead of going cooler, we need to go warmer. Right, lighter and warmer. So this is going to come from ultramarine blue and alizarin. And I'd probably start one layer like that, and then I can add the yellow on a layer on top. And what I might do at the bottom, since we want to take this fish from near to far, like here I might start, not too much, but just a little bit, letting the back part of that fish, and just take on a little bit of that water. And if these fish are going behind him underneath, well, let's go ahead and push those a little further back too. Okay. And if I went back down to the previous layer, I can just kind of do a wash. Again, to help not have hard edges on these guys. Right? If something's moving fast, you can't really catch the edges on them. All right, then as we move up and we influence this blue with a little more yellow, it's going to turn it to a green. All right, but we can't be a cool green. We have to have a warm green. So how are we going to do that? Again, it's all relative. So you feel this is moving in that warmer direction. And that's why I thought the color studies would be a good idea for you, Susan, is you really start to pick up on some of these subtleties and what things look like. Okay, and now again, remember this is what's going to hold any light beams or anything under there. So we need to have it dark enough that it can hold. We're sending that part of the fish back. Right, you see how just fuzzing out that back of the tail with those a little bit, just giving it a kiss of that color over it. Boom, already pushes that tail back and starts to bring that eye and mouth forward. All right, and then warmer still, because why? Because we're getting closer to the surface. So with this setup, since you're just using 3 colors and white, you can't, it's almost impossible to get out of harmony. Right? So it's, with this setup, you still kind of want to think the dominance, but it's either you mix in yellow and red, you're mixing red and blue, or you're mixing blue and yellow, or you're mixing all 3, right? And then white will adjust the help adjust the value. So again, it's a good way to explore. So we can have some color in that ocean, but it needs to be a darker value, and it still needs to be a little bit gray, right? I might have even gone too bright on some of those. I don't know. And then for these fish, these little silverfish, especially swimming off into the distance, we got to get them covered up with a little bit more. Okay, and that'll help with our focus as well. And so in my mind, your triad, you might look a little bit something more like this. And then the question is, how do those fish look? Well, silver, what you probably want to do with those is literally take all the color out of it. All of the color. And when I think of silver, I don't think warm, I think cold. So if it's got to be somewhere, I'm going to have it probably with just a touch of that ultramarine blue in there. And then it'll be a question of sometimes I wonder what happens. Sometimes it feels like, there we go. And then it'll be a question of setting up enough of a darkness, right, so that light can sit on top of it. So I'm going to go probably over with a darker gray. And one thing is with these fish in front, I'm going to make them darker and lighter than the big fish, right? Because that's how we bring something in forward. is the shadow. You know, if the darks are there, let them be darker, and the light, let it be lighter. Okay, so you can see we knock those down into a deeper value. And I think for the sake of shimmering, for shimmering's sake, then we'll take our yellow and our alizarin, and we're going to mix up an orange, and we're going to take some blue, and we're going to gray that off a little bit so it's not quite so bright. Again, let's go a little bit darker and probably even not quite so loud. On our first pass. Right, it's almost like we're setting up the ground, right? We're setting up the ground to hold the color. Because what you want to remember is, you know, if you go to a play or something and you're sitting there at the end of the play and it's over and man, you really got to go, and you can feel it the last line. Oh, and the last and there's another, and it keeps going. You know, and in 45 minutes you're expecting it to end in 45 minutes and it doesn't. You know, at some point it doesn't become pleasant anymore. So as we use the white, you really got to think about how powerful it is. And you know, how many times do you say good night, you know, to somebody? Not very much, right? So our white, our finish, we want to be very reserved with that. Or the black gray and then the light blue, yeah. Yeah, that light blue, it's kind of tricky. I mean, you think of the ocean as the blue, and then we're going to be dancing all around that blue, right? The purples and the greens and all of that. And then the light blue is going to be cool too. And since it's a transparent thing. So anyway, let's try that. And then again, the question is always, how much does it take? How much do we really need to let this guy seem like he's as colorful as we want him? Right? And this is, you know, admittedly a difficult concept. I know it took me a long time to grasp, but that idea of less instead of more. Right? So how can we set the things up around as less so that we have more when we get to maybe a highlight? I don't know. To me, it's like fish have highlights because they're wet. They're wet, right? Most things with wet and the right sun is going to have plenty of highlight. So when I do this, I might jump over back to that blue, right, instead of the orange, and see if we can get that gray there. You know, I may have already overdone it with that white. You see, it just does not take very much. Just does not take very much. Okay, so this we have to use that grayness for the chroma for that chroma to really read. And then with the shadow, again, this might be camera, but try to lean it warmer than cooler. Right? Your deepest shadows we almost want to think of as a warm, and almost precisely because of that feel from last night. And the thing is it'll just look shadowy, and it'll go better with this orange, and it'll make that orange look brighter. Those are those fish, and then less as it goes back. And then I think I would put the shadows on these guys. Now, they're probably not going to stay that dark, but I would put them in there to cut into them and go over them, if you know what I mean. Because we need a bit of it in there, but maybe that's too much, or maybe not. Or maybe not. I don't know. Boom, boom, boom. All right, and some yellow and blue. I'm gonna think might give us some of those good sunbeams popping through there. Let's see, I don't know. I feel like if we had a little bit more warmth. So again, rough with the time period in there, but this may or may not be what you're going with. But the thing is there's a lot to keep in your mind right now. And as we enter this new field of color, right, it can be big. So be patient with yourself. Be see it when you do it. But I hope, yeah, be patient, Susan. You know, in this last year, you have come so far, and we're not done. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going. Okay. So again, you don't need to spend a lot of time, but get in there today and mix these values again. Trust me, I know you're so anxious to get back to that big one, but let's take our time and not move on to that until we're confident we're this, right? To where you don't feel defeated, like, sigh, I missed. But, oh, I get it, right? And then if you feel like you've got it, if we check in, I'm like, yeah, you got it. Then you want to go back to your painting, okay? All right. Doing fantastic. Keep your spirits up. Keep your spirits up. All right. So let's just see. Again, do you feel that? Because you're going to get to feel, and you know, I was right here for a long time, and it drove me mad. why am I not getting the impact? But again, what's our very first question? The very first question we're always going to ask, and I know you guys, I don't say this until you forget about it, and then I bring it back, and you're like, dang it. We're going to go, woo. Visibles first. And then we want dimension or 3D. That's going to be form and near to far. And then finally, we've got to make sure we have movement. Okay, so form is value. Excuse me, visible is value, meaning there's enough value difference between our pieces. Okay, so let's check that. After we have that, 3D means your value patterns are right. Okay, that's all that means. It means that you've got your values in an order that makes logical sense to read as dimension. Okay? Then the fourth thing is to really bring it alive is you've got to make sure there's movement. Right? Movement meaning one feels like things are moving, even if it's nothing more than the air moving through the picture. Right? Or it may be fish flying by. Right? So there needs to be some sense of movement in the picture. Then there also has to be the movement that you're guiding the viewer's eye through the picture. Okay. Okay? So in my mind, this is where you're wanting to go. So more in this direction. I'm not saying this exactly. Right? More in this direction. And you can do it, but all of our stuff still applies. Okay? Good job. Good job. Keep your head up. Keep your head up and let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. All right. All right, that's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. You got it. Yep, and this is also what I like to see. All that encouragement, right? You know, if you're really trying and we're growing, we're going to fall. We're going to fall. But, you know, if we have friends around us, if we have compadres around us that we're journeying with, it makes it a lot easier. A lot easier. Okay, so now let's turn to the portraits or the planes of the face. So it's hard not to copy, but if we copy, believe it or not, it doesn't read. And what do I mean by read? When I say read, what I mean is it actually feels like something there and light is falling on it. So from here you can see where the light is getting caught. Right? Because the light's falling more down than it is across. Now that doesn't mean we want to paint it like that, but it means you understand what that consequence is. In other words, this is the side of the face. Before we see any detail, we see these big divisions. And this is the front of the face. Right? So if this was a box, this would be one side, and this would be the other side. And there's the corner. And this corner is facing us. This corner is facing us. And it's hard to see right now, but we're slightly below him. And so, wait, I got that wrong. We're slightly below him, so that'll go down That's going to go. So we're going to go away from this corner. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense. That's some higher level stuff, but that's a little bit bigger of an idea. Okay, then if we look at all of our side planes, so this plane is facing this way, which means the light is going to hit it a certain way, or if it's on the shadow side, then it'll be shadowed. Guess what? As this eyeball turns around, it has a side. The nose pokes up and has a side. Right? This is a side. This is a side. Okay? And then on the other side of the nose, the eyeball, we have a side of that far eyeball. So if I go blue now, we have side and we have front. We have side, we have front, then we have side of the nose, we have front of the nose, we have side of the eye, then we have front of the eye. Side of the cheek, front of the cheek, side of the nose, front of the nose, boom. All right, the cheek rolls down, and then we've got the front of the lip, the front of the goatee. Do you guys see what I'm doing there? Does that make sense? Yeah, pretty cool photo, huh? Pretty cool photo. Okay, so that's the side planes. That's the side planes. And then the underplanes are going to be like this. Something like this. So the eyeball, or excuse me, the brow ridge under the eyebrow is going to cut into the eye socket. And then sometimes there's ridges on the eyelids. And then if there's a little puff, there's an underneath plane. Guess what? This is slightly underneath plane. Underneath plane. We go across, so under the ridge, under the lid, under the eye, the nose, the lip, the bottom plane of the mustache, the lip going back into the chin, and underneath. All right, do you guys see how something can be facing the light? Right? If we were looking, and then it turns back under. So that turns under, 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 and that turns under. Right? So we're literally like if we had our fingers on his face, anytime, I'm not suggesting you go put fingers on, but anytime our hand went like that, you see it goes under. It goes under. It goes under. If I got a little cheek, you see all the underplanes there? And then the top planes catch the light. Okay? So that's our logic. That's our logic. Okay? Good. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, an essential lesson. It doesn't matter whether it's a vase, whether it's a cow or a rabbit or a fish or a saint or right, the language of a value is such. So now that we understand this, let's go back. And the development as an artist can be frustrating. It can be frustrating, and the reason why is as you get really good at something, but it's still not working. What's going on? Right? Like, what a nice touch we have here. What a beautiful touch. But let's think about this now as topography. Right? So now we know that this plane is similar, this plane is similar, this plane is similar, this plane is similar, and this plane is similar as far as the sides of the face. Right? So, in other words, these are all corners that are about to turn from the side to the forward. From side to forward, from side to forward, from side to forward. Okay? From side to forward, from side to forward, from side to forward. Right? So what we're doing is we're implying this corner. And if you'll remember, paint is the language of mass. So 2x4s, not 2x4s, plywood. Right? We want to construct this out of plywood. Alright, so then just to be clear, then forward. Alright, so we've got the side, and then we go forward until we hit side again, and we go up the side, then we go forward, and then we would fall off. But we got side. Sometimes there's a little forward here. The eye, forward. The nose, forward. The eye, forward. 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 Are you guys seeing that? So the whole language of paint is implying corners. Right? Implying those corners and showing those planes. Oh man, who's not layering up? Who is this unlayering, unworthy? Oh my goodness. All right, so back button we go. Back, 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 back. And let's level up. And then let's do the similar thing now with the underplanes. And again, it's confusing because this isn't necessarily what the photo's doing. But we know we're turning under here. 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 And we know we're turning under here. This is also under. This is also under. And that is also under. Okay? So, what do we have? Well, what we see is side planes. And should our side planes perhaps in this case you could be shadow or air. I'm going to suggest we make them shadow. So let me skip that. Right? So if all the side planes are shadow, and if we make the underplanes shadow, then we have some light right here. The other way that we could do this, and again, this decision has to come from the artist. Is we could say this is air, and we can say this is shadow, and then we have our light facing forward, and then our highlight would be there. Okay? Highlights would be on these two corners. So, if we're doing it that way, then the highlight would be on that corner, right? It would be on that corner. It would be on this corner. But if we're doing shadow on that side, and it's coming the other way, then the highlight's going to be on the other side. Transparency would be there. Right? Highlight there, right? The highlight's going to be on that side. And when you look at David and when you look at Rembrandt, don't look at the subject matter. Don't even look at the paint. Look at the logic. Look at the logic of it, right? And the results of where those highlights go determine how I answer if one plane is shadow and one plane is air. Right? I literally play that game all the way through my head, and I see where does that put the highlights, because I know highlights are finished, and is that where I want to finish. So if we're playing chess, this is equivalent on seeing, oh, not that I can take that piece, but playing that whole series of moves out, which may be 4 to 7 moves in. So you need to see this 4 to 7 moves down the line, and what is the consequences of me making that decision. Okay, now I know this is hardcore here. This is hardcore. But you guys want to be artists. So you got to understand this logic. And again, sometimes that logic's given to us perfect. That is called a good reference. That are the things you want to paint. And then the things that you're going to have to start manipulating, well, I have to do this, and I have to do that, I have to do that, I have to do that. With a little bit of experience, you start to understand exactly how much work that is. And once you start to understand exactly how much work that is, oh, they want me to do this photo, but look, that's 7 years of problem solving. And they're going to pay me $75? No thanks. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is how to tell whether something's worthy of being painted. It's not a personal opinion, it's not a personal taste. Some of that can come into it after it has good logic. All right, let's see what's going on here, and then let's draw on this a little bit. Enough of this chit-chat. Enough of this chit-chat. Yes, a nice touch, and yes, a warm spirit. So again, the thing is art's a strange thing. We can even get this logic wrong or not be right on, and it still have a very good feeling. Has a very good feeling, right? It can have, because the thing about this is our state of being is recorded as we're doing it. So if we could be in a good state of being and use proper logic, man. Yeah, and that's the basic problem right here. It's almost like I get so taken by the image that I don't see the simple principles. Yeah, suspended place. Yeah, I don't realize what I've missed until I'm already stuck. Yeah, and that's very, very natural until one big switch is where you starting slower. Right? You quit picking up the paint, and it gets frustrating because sometimes you literally never start. Meaning that you can't start until you get these things figured out, and you can't figure those things out, which sometimes can literally lead to hours of not being able to do anything. Right? Yeah, everybody, that's what we all do. That's what we all do. Okay, so the main thing is to be aware that this is a problem. And what I suggest, because one of the reasons we're all here is because of our enthusiasm. So what I suggest is do a quick sketch as soon as you see it. Just get that enthusiasm out. And then look at the result. and then go, okay, so now let's stop and do this problem solving. So let's stop here and do a little problem solving. Okay, so let's start. So working in charcoal. Why don't we just go right over to charcoal? There we go. And then not only do I know that this is a bottom plane, but if I know the direction the light's coming in, and I know the forms I need to show, then I'll get a cast shadow on there too. Okay, and when we do this, what do we know about our edges? Well, we know this is a soft edge. Then we got a hard edge. Then all that's a soft edge. And that cast shadow's a little softer at the end and a little softer on this far side. Okay, then let's make sure we get this all nice and flat. There's no holes in there. Okay, so do you see how just by doing it immediately, boom. Okay, and so after that, we have the eye sockets, right? Which means this is turning in, and it'll end in a hard edge, and it'll be come from a soft edge. Now you got to take into consideration if there's hair, if this is hair or skin, right? But we're just talking patterns right now. We're just talking patterns. And again, if the light's coming this direction, what happens? Well, that means the soft edge, that turns around, right? We're back underneath there. Light is coming that direction, so right, that would be cut, and then the shadow would be on this side over here. Like that. Okay, so I know we've been over these things, and that you've had, so again, the question is this light or air? Is that light or air? Not light or air, sorry. Shadow or air, right? And again, you have to decide that. And the way you make that decision is well, what's more beautiful? What's more beautiful? Right? So you need to see those patterns in your head before you do them and see the results of those patterns. And if you can't see the results of those patterns, then what we need to do is we need to start doing some studies, right? Little quick studies or whatever, until we can see our problem. All right, so let's see if we did anything here. Let's see if we did anything. Do you see you don't really feel, we want to feel the rise and fall. We want to feel the three-dimensionality of that, and the three-dimensionality, the three-dimensionality comes from correct pattern of our 4 values. Okay, that's all 3D means, is the right dark, gray, light highlight with the appropriate edges. So we're talking value, shape, and edge sequence. Okay, that can seem like overwhelmingly a lot. But again, remember, all of this can be studied and learned right here on the simple sphere. And the cube. So those lessons weren't there because, oh, beginners start, they need to do. You've got to understand how that applies to a face, to a flower, to a landscape, to a tree, to a squirrel, to water, to an eyeball. Okay, so the value patterns, the shapes, and the edge sequence is what's going to get us there. All right, again, you are doing amazing. You and Susan both are doing amazing, right? So I don't want this to be discouraging on any level, but there's a lot to keep in the air. But the important thing is to realize that you can't get that next level without those right value patterns. What will happen as you start searching for this logic is your things will get a little bit ugly. Let them get ugly. The understanding of the logic is worth the ugliness. Because then after you understand the logic, they're going to get much more beautiful and much more solid much more quickly. All right. Let's see what we got here. All right. Yeah, right? We're always looking for that strength, right? And that strength is that feeling of structure. And then the light bouncing and the color, that's what'll draw the viewers. But the structure, that'll come from the strength. Better. Good. Yeah, some people can take it as like, why doesn't he just talk about something else? Well, because this is what matters. This is what'll do it. So I'm so glad. Yeah. Again, she's got some great things going, but along with those disappearing, what's the structure and what's the edge? Let's get that disappearing, that soft touch you already have in there. And then again, notice that when I put in my dark, I try to have it like dark and soft, not a lot of action happening in there. And that's going to let you separate it from the gray so much. All right. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. So thanks for getting me stuff. Thanks for working so hard. So we're ending this We got 2 more days. 2 more days of your work right now before we go back to class work. So guys, all I ever hear is, can I work on my own thing? Can I work on my own thing? Can I work on my... Yeah, you can work on your own thing. This is your month right here. You got 2 days to get me stuff. Shakti and Susan are getting private lessons because they're working. They're working and turning it in. So I hope you guys will get some of your stuff done and get it turned in, because Monday we're going back to class. We're going back to learning. All right, thank you everybody. Susan, thank you for your work. You're doing beautiful. I cannot wait to see how this painting turns out. And Shakti, the same thing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do the work and be the artist, right? But it's on your shoulders. All I can do is help you what I can, but unless you go and you push those heavy pencils, you push that heavy paint, I know it doesn't look heavy, but man, if you're not right in the head, that charcoal is heavy. That paint is heavy. So do the work, get strong, and be beautiful. Love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.